Do you believe that these at least 13 attacks on U.S. forces in Iraq and Syria, do you believe that Iran is responsible for these? Were these all conducted by Iranian-backed proxies?
Well, I think we've been pretty clear on this, and my colleagues at the White House yesterday talked about this as well. We know that the groups conducting these attacks are supported by the IRGC and the Iranian regime. What we are seeing is the prospect for more significant escalation against U.S. forces and personnel across the region in the very near term, coming from Iranian proxy forces and ultimately from Iran. So by virtue of our announcement over the weekend, we are preparing for this escalation, both in terms of defending our forces and responding decisively. And I just want to emphasize the point that I made earlier, which is that we always reserve the right to defend ourselves, and we will never hesitate to take action when needed to protect our forces and our interests overseas.
At this point, can you confirm which Iranian-backed militias are responsible for these attacks?
Again, I'm not going to go into specifics here from the podium, other than to say that we know that these groups are Iranian proxy groups.
And lastly, can we get a breakdown of the injuries that have occurred based on these attacks? And have there been any TBIs that have occurred as a result of these attacks as well?
Yeah, again, we'll come back to you on that. Thank you. Jeff?
When were the most recent attacks? You mentioned 10 in Iraq, 3 in Syria. When were the most recent of these attacks? And separately, can you confirm that the Carney used its 5-inch gun to shoot down some of the drones launched by the Houthis?
Yeah, so in terms of the Carney, Jeff, I'm just not going to go into specifics on its defensive systems. And as far as the attacks go, I can confirm, and I think I talked about this yesterday. We had the attempted attack at Entente garrison in Syria. No casualties or damage to infrastructure. I am aware that there are data miner alerts out there talking about another potential attack today, so we're looking into that. I just don't have any information to provide. But again, it is our intent to be able to confirm the details of these attacks since they've begun and make that available to the press and to the public. So that two reasons. One, you asked the question, and two, we're very sensitive to the fact that there's a lot of misinformation out there right now about whether attacks have occurred or not. And so we'd like to have something in the public record so that we can have a basis for truth as we go forward on this. Thank you. Chris, and then I'll come back to you, Joe.
Just thanks, Pat. A couple of questions, just to follow up on the attacks. Do you have, or did any of the attacks in Syria come from inside Iraq?
Chris, right now, I just don't have that level of detail to provide.
Okay, and then second question, you've highlighted there's a very near-term threat, but it will take some time for these additional forces, the carrier, to arrive. So what steps are you taking right now in near-term deterrence to prevent attacks?
Yeah, so to be clear, we have significant capabilities in the theater right now. Right, I mean, you've got the Ford that's in the Eastern Mediterranean. You've got an expanded number of fighter aircraft throughout the region, in addition to the naval assets that are already in the Central Command AOR. So there should be no confusion whether or not we have the ability to respond to any potential threats right now. The announcement over the weekend, as it highlighted, is intended to enhance those capabilities and sustain those capabilities for as long as we may need in order to continue to both deter and protect our troops.
And one final quick question. Do you have an update on the number of C-17 flights that have gone into Israel?
I do not. I do not.
Concerning information about what's going on in Israel. So Biden had a random situation room briefing today And tomorrow, the House is going to be holding a classified briefing on Iran at 3:30 p.m. Okay, a classified briefing, closed door on Iran tomorrow afternoon. We have the U.S. Department of Defense ratcheting up its rhetoric against Iran today, saying that it will hold Iran ultimately responsible for a spate of recent drone and rocket attacks on American troops in the Middle East, while the Pentagon does not have information that the government of Iran explicitly ordered the attacks on U.S. forces in the past week. The groups responsible for the incidents are backed by Tehran. DoD spokesperson Brigadier General Patrick Ryder told reporters on Monday, and he said, by virtue of the fact that they are supported by Iran, we will ultimately hold Iran responsible. Okay? So the U.S. is really concerned about Iran now, more so than anything else. Okay? They're having a classified briefing tomorrow at 3:30 p.m. On Iran, and then today, the spokesman for the DoD, Patrick Ryder, said that they're going to hold Iran responsible for any attacks on American bases, okay? Because Iran is supporting all these militants that are attacking the U.S. bases. They're arming them, they're training them, so Iran is responsible. Here's a video of Biden from earlier today. He was talking about economics, and he suddenly had to leave because he was called to the Situation Room, so let's just listen to this.
I apologize, and I have to go to the Situation Room with military issue. I have to. Thank you. I apologize, and I have to go to the Situation Room with military issue. I have to. Thank you.
Okay, so that's pretty unusual. And the U.S. is going to be sending additional forces to the Middle East. And this is coming from White House spokesman John Kirby. He said the president has ordered additional military forces to the region, and more forces will be coming in the days and weeks ahead to try to deter any actor from widening or deepening this conflict, he said. And the U.S. has sent Marine generals and other senior Marine officers to Israel to help them prepare for the Gaza invasion. We have Russia saying that the U.S. military reinforcement in the Middle East risks escalation. This is coming from the Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov, and he said that today. He was in Iran today. So very interesting that he would visit Iran. Speaking about the U.S. deployment of warships to the region during a meeting in Tehran, Lavrov said the more a state takes this kind of proactive measure, the more the risk and the danger of an escalation of the conflict, okay? And we know that Putin put MiG-31 fighter jets on combat alert, or actually combat duty, in the Black Sea, and from the Black Sea, those MiG-31s can launch hypersonic missiles that can reach U.S. warships in the Eastern Mediterranean, okay? So that's pretty concerning, guys, okay? The U.S. has intelligence that Iranian-backed militia groups are planning to ramp up attacks against U.S. forces in the Middle East. So there's going to be more of these attacks on U.S. bases, guys. Okay, we haven't seen anything yet. This is just the beginning. Okay, everybody's freaking out already. Everybody's, panicking. Everybody's, scared. This is nothing, guys. This is just the beginning. We haven't even seen the war actually start yet, okay? Once the war kicks off, it's going to be absolutely insane, all right? If you think that things are tense now, wait until Israel goes into Gaza, and then Hezbollah attacks Israel, and then the U.S. starts carpet bombing Hezbollah, and then Iran responds with ballistic missiles, and they fire ballistic missiles into Israel, and then the U.S. retaliates with a full-scale decapitation nuclear strike on Iran, because that's what could happen. And then Russia retaliates and fires missiles at our aircraft carrier. And